And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba the Bat Flip, episode 79. Going to recap your week 2 FAAB, take some awesome listener questions, and so much more fun stuff to get you keeping on this fantasy baseball season-long action we got going here. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric and the Bat Flip portion of the podcast on Twitter at BatFlipCrazy. Toby, how we doing, man?
We're doing all right, Bubba. I mentioned to you as we were hopping on here, it's been an early struggle for a lot of my teams, but today started inching in the right direction. So I know it's very early, but it's never too early to be concerned about your teams and worried that you've made all the wrong choices in the world, like betting against Vlad Guerrero Jr., you know?
No one ever reminds you of that either.
No, nobody does. I deserve every reminder.
No, it's okay. It was bound to happen one of these years, and it's only 10 games in. So that's the hot topic on Twitter now. 10-game sample size. Can't believe everything you see. It's
10-game sample size.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that I drafted Ronald Acuna 1 when I could have just drafted Tyler Naquin.
Exactly.
Without even drafting him, I could have just picked him up on the wire.
And now he's not even starting because Winker's back, so he's not even starting now. So it's fun.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what's the point in drafting like Freddie Freeman when all along I could have drafted like Adam Duvall?
Yep.
You know,
monster night. Yes.
Why are we spending all this high draft capital on hitters when I could just stream their 3 home run games on the waiver wire?
Exactly. Like Ryan McMahon. Why did we not do this? It's like simple stuff, guys. Draft him in around 14.
Should have gone 9 straight aces.
Yeah.
But why draft aces early when you could have just drafted Huascar Ynoa? You know,
exactly.
I mean, man, my draft strategy should have just been 4 closers to start off with based on how the season's going on early. But even that didn't work out. So who knows? You
should just traded your top 10 picks for the next 20 picks from someone else. Sure. And then just taking all your picks from there. That's the strategy.
I'll trade you my first 10 picks for all your FAAB.
There you go. Exactly. I'll make it happen off the waiver wire. So see you guys later. It's fun. It's baseball. It's the ups and downs. I love the overreactions. I do it. We all do it. It's fun to enjoy what you're doing, but long season. It's not 60 games this year. We got 162. So it's a long ways to go. Like I almost took a screenshot of some things today and I was like, no, because I know how things can go in a few weeks. So we're just going to pretend this didn't happen and enjoy the standings where they are. But it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. And we'll see where it keeps going. But we're going to talk some week 2 FAAB. Similar to last week, it's fun because it gets to talk about the key players that were added, kind of what value we think they have going forward. Maybe they get dropped and nothing after this week and you can go pick them up for cheaper, stuff like that. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of closers. It's going to be a weekly thing. Like right before we jumped on, I saw a note that Julian Merriweather, he left with a hip injury. So welcome back Jordan Romano time. Like it's just going to be a revolving door of what's going on. So it kind of goes back, Toby, to what we said last week. Should we be paying this much for closers by committee?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And the thing with Merriweather, it's like, maybe Romano's going to be the guy.
It could be someone
else.
But
also, Romano has been awful, right? Yep. I mean, even today, he was really bad. Yep. So,
and Dolis hasn't been great. Like, they have a big hole in the back of that bullpen.
Gosh, I'm going to have to pick up like Tim Meza or whatever his name is. And I don't know how he's been doing, but I got to check out the peripherals.
I will be glued to Greg Jewett's article tomorrow morning in my email. That's all I have to say. Coffees and closers.
Poor guy having to keep up with the closer carousel.
I'm jealous. He has something to talk about every night. Like early in the season, if you're doing other fantasy content, what do? Except overreact to everything. He's actually got stuff to talk about.
You just give up, Bubba. You just give up or sit in the corner and rock yourself, you know?
Yep, that's all we do. I go Leo Mazzoni in the corner. Yeah. That's what I do. But it's going to be – we got a few closers to talk about here. See where it goes, but let's kick it off with the highest FAAB acquisition this past week. He went 425 leagues, most leagues. He went for as much as $556, as cheap as $1. All these guys go for as cheap as $1 somewhere, and it blows my mind. I can't. I want to know these leagues. I really do.
Get me in those leagues. Those leagues.
But Lou Trivino went for a massive amount. I remember like a couple years ago looking for him as a potential closer guy here and there, but he got the save on Tuesday against the Diamondbacks. So that was good. But $555, I saw him go for a couple hundred in my leagues. What's your thoughts on Trivino? Because I still think there's other guys involved there, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we got probably the clearest statement of any committee, in terms of the manager kind of saying that they wanted to go with Trivino. But at the same time, I mean, that's true. But then you look at the usage and it still was a little confusing heading in. Like, is Diekman still going to get that? If there's going to be lefties coming up, is Diekman still going to get it? I think the thing for Trivino, I put in bids in the $40 range. I kind of knew I wasn't going to get him. But the thing with Trivino is, he's been fine. He hasn't actually been all that good throughout his career. And then when I was looking at just his numbers so far this year, 8.1% swinging strike rate, but he appears to have the role. And so as long as he has that, and his .067 BABIP and 100% strand rate, we will continue to see him, I think, in the ninth inning. So, whether or not it'll last, that's always the question with the closers, but he seemed like a good speculative guy to add. I just think it is very challenging to bid, those multiple $100 bids to get a closer who, if he blows his next save, are we sure that they're going to come in? So that's always the tension. I think we talked about it last week between the closer and the new closers and trying to pick them up on FAAB. But you got to get saves, you got to get saves. And I'm freaking out about it too, because I don't have a ton of saves right now in my teams.
It's okay. I saw stats. I think it was Monday. A large chunk of teams in leagues don't have saves. So it's just one of those deals that it gets wild because not everybody can draft Craig Kimbrell and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like you. I mean,
it's just crazy. You can't do it. But and that's why I will enjoy it.
I never felt as seen on a podcast as I did when I was listening to Scott Genstad and Jeff Erickson, and they were like, there are even a bunch of teams in the main who have 0 saves. And I'm like, that's me over here. I mean, I think it's only one league that I have 0 saves and 0 closers in, but oh man, it's fun out there.
Yeah, it's a wild time. Well, heck, like Chapman and Hand, guys that went kind of early, just got their first saves on Monday. So it's just, it's early. It's very, very early. We'll see how things keep going. But Trivino, I like his talents. It is the A's, a team that we know likes to kind of stick with one guy for the most part, which is good. I do think Diekman will still get his fair share, like if it's a lefty situation. Like you said, we got some good quotes from the coaching staff there. So that's good to hear. But Trivino is one of the few that I've seen worth spending on, not spending $555 on. I wouldn't have gone past like probably 150, 160, and I didn't. I obviously went less because I didn't get him anywhere. But I just can't break the bank that much, especially in week 2. Like if you break the bank now, then you can't spend later. It doesn't even matter if you have saves to me. So it's just tough. Yeah. But we talked about that last week. Now a really fun one. And this is interesting because
It's not a fun one, Bubba.
Oh, you must have grabbed some too.
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
he wasn't even on my FAAB bids. He wasn't even on my conditionals.
Tyler Naquin went for 412 leagues, as high as 476, as low as $1. I put some like keep him honest bids out there for like $31 and stuff. I think I won him in like one league. Didn't even start him this week. I just like I'm gonna grab him just in case, but I'm not running to play him everywhere. But some people really wanted to, apparently, looking at the prices. And so far on Monday and Tuesday, Jesse Winker's back and starting and leading off every day, and Tyler Naquin has not left the pine. So this is a very shady situation. And Shogo Akiyama eventually is going to come back, which makes it even more entertaining there for Naquin. I don't have a whole lot to say besides oops. What do you have on this one, Toby?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because the bids are in and people have already done this, but these are the ones you need to steer clear of. I mean, they can sometimes work out. The thing about all of these is they can sometimes work out. But this one just had red flags all over it, right? I mean, Naquin, he's always been a platoon guy. He was going to be a platoon guy with the Reds. He was only in because of Winker. And so this is one where it's just like having that situational awareness, having that contextual and awareness of what's happening on a given team can prevent you from wasting a significant amount of FAAB dollars. That's not to say like you mentioned, a lower bid wasn't worth it just because he was on fire. I mean, he was just absolutely crushing it. But yeah, you got his best week of the season is done, and you're not really going to be able to bank any of that. And so I think it's a good lesson just in terms of, regardless of how excited we are about a player or what we see them do in a given week, we need to make sure that we're viewing them in context about what's happening, like where are they going to hit in the lineup, how frequently are they going to be in the lineup, asking ourselves all those questions just to make sure that we aren't, going after, because these are the ones that really hurt, right? Where they don't really even give you a shot to be successful.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you there. It's a tough one. It's like one of those, though, if you can hold them, I'd hold them until they play an American League team and you can DH, but that's still going to be a little while. So you might not be able to hold him. But I will say, if he does go on the waiver wire, it'd be like a week early when they do face a DH, because you might get a week of Tyler Naquin. You never know. He could be a cheap acquisition. But right now, it's not great, Bob. Not great. But so we'll see. You never know. Injuries can happen, and he can slide right back in there again. So just kind of cross your fingers. The next one, though, this one I like a lot. This was a fun discussion topic because I kind of played the troll card, like everyone's going to break the bank. But then Kenley Jansen got a save on Sunday and looked absolutely amazing doing it. Looked like the old Kenley. So it lowered Corey Knebel's price a little bit. Still went in 404 leagues, third most in all of. There's only 3 guys over 400. There was these 3, and then the next one's 268. So these were the clear 3 main targets on FAAB. Knebel went for his highest 342, as low as $1. I think in my TGFBI league, it was like 260 something, which was way out of what I was doing. I put like $60 to $70 bids on him for the reason, and then I'll let you have the floor. I still believe Kenley's the closer, 100%, because Dave Roberts talked about giving him rest. But that quote there says there will be chances, probably they're going to win so many games. There's going to be chances once, maybe even twice a week, where Knebel gets a chance to close or gets a chance for late innings and wins, similar to Jose Alvarado, who I absolutely love, and I still play almost every week because of what he can bring. Ratios, strikeouts, potential wins. Knebel could get you 10 saves by the end of the year, and you wouldn't be shocked. And that could be huge on this season. So I was good with the bids here. I still wouldn't break the bank. Toby, what were your thoughts on Corey Knebel being a hot acquisition target?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I think you explained it very well. I think the one thing, too, to like about Knebel is he's a good enough reliever where, like you mentioned, he can help you even if he's not getting saves. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at what he's doing right now, and again, it's early, 15.7% swinging strike rate, but we've seen him do this before, right? In 2017 and 2018, he had 39.5% and 40.8% strikeout rates. So he's gotten 40% strikeouts before, right? So, and he's doing it, I mean, he's got 42.9% Ks so far. His walk rate is down at 7.1%. He's being dominant. He's getting more chases outside the zone than he ever has. Again, 4.1 innings. So it's a small sample. He has yet to give up a batted ball that has fallen for a hit, and he has a 100% strand rate, right? Yeah. So these things can and will change, but he's a very, very good reliever. And so I think with that being said, I don't think you can start him every single week, but he's a really nice guy to have in there to plug in if you just can't get a matchup that you feel comfortable with having your starting pitching in. His velocity is up 2 miles per hour from where it was last year, 96.5 compared to 94.4. It's closer to his 2017 and 2018 numbers. So again, he looks like he's legit in terms of being able to be a dominant reliever again. And that's always helpful to have. The question is just going to be negotiating your roster. And can you hold on to a guy like that for an extended period of time? Or will you have to move on from him? And again, he's Kenley insurance. So if Kenley, the Dodgers are going to win a lot of games, like you mentioned. So if they get 2 in a row or 3 in a row, he's going to get an opportunity potentially there. And then if something were to happen to Kenley, which is not out of the question, you're going to love him. I mean, you're going to love having on your team. So I can understand it. Not that huge bids again, but like if you can get him for 60 to $70 or whatever it was. My bids were lower than that, but yeah.
Okay, my question for you, because I think Knebel was the guy I was good with once people lowered their expectations. That's why I was trolling. They were like, "Oh, he's the new closer." I'm like, no, he's not, guys. Like, calm down. As long as Kenley can throw a baseball, he is the closer in LA. Like, that's just the way it's going to go. Would you rather have spent, if you're going to make a big bid this past week, would you rather have spent it on Knebel or Trivino?
Oh, Trivino.
Okay.
Trivino, yeah. Just because of the saves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my bids were like, I think I was like $44 for Trivino and like 14 or 11 or something like that for Knebel. So I probably knew I probably wasn't going to get him, but I had some other guys in mind.
Yeah, no, I saw your tweet. We will discuss them here pretty soon. But yeah, it's interesting. I think he's a good move, and it's kind of something we've talked about before. I think people should start looking at, if you don't want to spend a ton of money, that's fine. Find those, if they are in a committee, or at least eighth inning guys that are going to get you the ratios and everything else that can be productive. Like I always mention Alvarado, but he's got 2 wins, a save, great ratios, and strikeouts. If he continues like on as close to that path, that's going to be a solid guy. And like you said, you don't have to play him every week, but there's so many weeks now in baseball where you're like, well, there's no set closer. I'd rather play him than one of those other relievers that have like bad matchups. Like they're going up against the Dodgers and the Padres. I don't want to use this guy. Okay, I'll use Knebel or Alvarado. Or I only have 1 2-star guy, then I have 2 starters that are like, one's going to Coors and one's going. Yeah, I'll use the reliever situation. So they're nice to have on this weird and wacky season. And it's not just those guys. There's going to be a bunch of them. Like go look at Greg Jewett's chart. You can kind of pick different situations there and then go dig deeper, obviously, in the stats. But it's something I'd really emphasize now and get them now while they're cheap, because they're going to keep going up. So if you're doing your FAAB, like Toby's got a couple guys that he threw some bids on, and he got them for dirt cheap. Get them now, because if they do hit, they're going to cost a lot more, obviously. So see what you can do there. All right, the next one here, and this one's fun because I didn't know what to do with him after spring training, Akil Baddoo. But my goodness, he just keeps hitting. He went deep on Monday, went deep again on Tuesday. The dude is just really, really good. He's batting 8th. He's all over the lineup, which is odd. But he went in 268 leagues, as high as 423, as low as $1. I like him. I got him in a couple leagues, but they were leagues where he went way, way, way cheaper because I wasn't breaking the bank either. But I'm concerned on 2 things, Toby. I'm concerned on playing time because I still think there's going to be potential committee situations there, and he's still so young. Like I'm waiting for the roadblock to happen. So what's your thoughts on Akil Baddoo, who's taking the world by storm, but is it sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, I was not really, he wasn't available in most of my leagues. I wasn't that interested. I do want to give a shout out. I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody on our bold predictions who was super into Baddoo. And just shout out to them. I don't have your handle in front of me, but just a shout out for being prescient there and seeing what we could not see, I think, when we looked over it. That being said, I mean, I think this is one of those ones where it starts out really hot and then peters out a little bit. So some things to be concerned about. Number one is where he's batting in the lineup, but 63.4% contact rate, 38.3% O swing. So he's swinging at everything and he's not making a ton of contact. Now, those can help each other, right? Because he's not making a lot of contact, but he swings so much that he makes it more frequently. But that 19% strikeout rate seems low. And I think that will boost up. I mean, the bat has him for 31% the remainder of the season, 213 batting average. Steamer has made some changes to his projection. They have him at 240, and so if that's the case, if he can hit 240, then I think he could potentially bring you some love, because of the power speed combination. I think that's going to be the major question is as pitchers start to get familiar with him, then, figuring out, they're going to figure him out a little bit and he's going to have to adjust back and we'll see if he can do that. But, we've seen it many times where guys come out super hot and they have those profiles where they're streaky guys and they hit it good to begin with. And all it takes is a week of that catching up to them and it's not looking so hot. So who knows if that'll happen with Baddoo. I still think that there are underlying concerns with the profile, but there are generally underlying concerns with the profile for any player that's on the waiver wire right now. So not a bad little attempt. I mean, I think the key is trying to get these guys a week ahead if you can. you try to stay away from paying the $100, $200 bids, for guys that have holes, I think the size that he does. But yeah,
we'll have to see how it goes. I guess the good thing he's got going for him, which could also be a real pain for a fantasy manager, is he's a Rule 5 pick, so he has to stay on the roster. He doesn't have to start, but he has to stay on the roster, so he'll be there in Detroit. So they can send him down. And secondly, they really don't have any reason not to let him play and see what they have. So then it becomes a point of, okay, he's still playing every day, but he's slumping. This is going to be frustrating to sit him on my bench because I spent so much money on him. So you have to have like that willpower to be like, you know what, just go sit in the corner, and we'll talk to you in a little bit. So it'll be fun to watch. I hope he doesn't slump, but I'm with you. We've seen it time and time again. Pitchers will make their adjustments. We'll see how, on Wednesday, he faces Lance McCullers in that curveball, and now that new slider he has. I want to see how Akil Baddoo does. I'm really, really intrigued by something like that. 'Cause that's filthy stuff you have not seen in the minor leagues. Yeah. So show me how you can hit that, and then we can then I'll be impressed.
It'll be interesting. Although Lance has to throw some strikes.
Too. Yes, this is true.
He has to throw some strikes, not to Baddoo necessarily, because he's going to swing regardless.
Yes.
So your point is very well taken there. But I was diving into Lance McCullers a little bit, and we'll see. We'll see if he can throw some strikes.
You know what his profile looks like right now is 2020 Tyler Glasnow, who's now made a big adjustment in 21 because he could find the strike zone again. But yeah, man,
Glasnow and Burns are going to be the death of me.
Glasnow for me for sure. Like Burns, I'm not going to be mad about Burns until he pitches way over the innings, because it's fine. He's supposed to be doing this right now. We admitted he's good, but it's the innings that was the concern. So once we get to that point, we'll talk. But
he's really good.
Yeah, he's very good. He's very, very good. Glasnow is the one that I'm already very, very wrong on. I have a feeling that one's stinging.
The next one, something?
Yes.
This is what happens. This is what happens, right?
Well, you can't be right on everybody.
You can't be right on everybody. You can't be wrong on everybody. Well, I guess theoretically you could be wrong on everybody, but but that's the thing is you have information ahead of you. You make your best guess about what's going to happen. Sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're right, and you just got to hope that maybe you're right a little bit more than you're wrong, and it ends up for the better.
And remember, we can't use 10-game sample sizes, so why am I using a 3-game start? I don't know.
There you go.
So we're going to roll with that.
I mean, there are still people who don't think Shane Bieber's that good.
Pretty darn good. Zach Plesac, on the other hand, no, I was kidding. Bieber.
I look forward to Cleveland playing anybody but the Tigers. Savale with his 2 Tigers starts to start, and Plesac with his 2 Tigers starts to start. This is just my bitterness. And look at that. We mentioned Plesac, and Dave McDonald shows up in the chat.
It's like a bat signal.
He's got like ears to the pods. He's just like sonar. And every time somebody says like the intonation of Plesac, he's just like.
Yeah, the problem is, I hope he heard the intro of you praising Bieber before the Plesac comment. So it was like, there was love before the hate. So we'll see.
Well,
he faces the White
Dave and I share a love for Shane Bieber. I had Shane Bieber in half of my main events last year too. So we share that love. I'll follow that love with you, Dave McDonald, just not the Plesac and Savale love quite yet. Although I'm like on Glasnow and Burns, I will inevitably be unbelievably wrong on it. So
yeah, we'll see what happens. But this one surprised me, Toby. I put maybe $11 bids in on Johnny Cueto just because he's eating innings up. He looks decent, NL West. We'll see what happens here. Wasn't running to get him. As literally, if I got no one else and I needed a live arm, I was going to get Johnny Cueto this past week. Well, he went in 258 leagues as high as $178. First off, I'd like to talk to the man or person, human being, that spent $178 on Johnny Cueto, because as much of a Giants fan as I am, no. But let's not talk about price here. He almost went complete game in his last start, looked decent in his first start. Are you buying into him being like a fantasy option this year? Because I still think he's only streamable, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely more streamable. I mean, I think the one thing that I have noticed, like there has been an improvement in skills, like the swinging strike rate is up. I want to say his velo is up at least a little bit, or maybe not. It's 91.5, at least I'm seeing here on Fangraph. So maybe I'm wrong with that. maybe it's the cutter. I don't know. I was diving into him, and I wasn't scared by what I saw. Like, I definitely wasn't worried like I have been in past years. And the fact that he pitches I'm just going to call it Candlestick Park. Is that okay? Am I allowed to still do that?
You call it whatever you want. Yeah. Anything works.
Okay, cool. At Candlestick, he still pitches there, so it's nice. But yeah, not somebody. I just don't think he has the upside that you want to spend a lot of money on. So
he's definitely a streamable guy. Some 2-star weeks will be great, but like he literally is a smoke and mirrors Longo game tying homer. Boom. But it's
that hurts, and it also feels good because I have a lot of Longo, although I don't know if I have them in my lineups this week.
It wasn't off of Castillo though; it just blew the wind.
Oh, it wasn't.
No, it's off of Doolittle.
Oh, Doolittle, great. The guy I picked up for saves attempts is pitching in like the 6th inning and blew the victory for my guy Castillo.
Yeah, Cueto, not on board with that, but this next one I am curious about. This lefty, I remember I've been a fan of him as like a late round pick with the Mets for years, and people are like, "Oh, you're crazy." And most of the time I get it. But Steven Matz with the Toronto Blue Jays has looked pretty darn good to start the year. At least 6 innings in both starts, 1 earned run in both starts, 4 Ks in the one, and 9 Ks in the other. 9 Ks against Texas, that helps. But he's looked pretty good in his first 2 starts. A lot of people were going to the waiver wires to add him this past week, as high as $257 to be precise. I was trying to get some Matz, but I didn't get anywhere. Are you buying into this new Steven Matz? Because he looks like the guy we kind of hoped he would be at one point in time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was interested. He kept the velo bump that he had last year, so he's close to 95 from the left side. Even last year, like, things don't look great, right? Like 341 BABIP, 58.6% strand rate, a 9.68 ERA in 30 innings. But in those 30 innings, he also had 36 strikeouts. In those 30 innings, he had a strikeout minus walk rate of 18.3%, swinging strike rate of 10.4%. And he's actually a guy that generally gets more called strikes, I think, than averages. Now I can check because it's right here on Fangraphs. Isn't that like so cool?
Everything's coming into one place. Yep.
Yeah. So like 27.5% CSW, so not great. But yeah, so I was definitely interested. I was definitely interested in him. Put in some bids, but where he was available, he was just available in 12 teamers. I think in one 12 teamer that I had. So far so good. Again, we've seen the question is going to be, can he avoid those absolute implosions, right? Where he gives up 8 runs in 1 inning. Those are the types of games he needs to avoid, but the underlying metrics certainly, are certainly helpful. I think the key will be the home runs too. Just looking at his home runs per 9. 4.11 last year, 152, 146, 162 the last few years. So if he can keep the ball in the ballpark, that'll be real beneficial for him. But we'll see. The ground ball rate is at 55% this year too, so far, which is so nice.
The sinker's working, and that also adds to the BABIP situation as well. So that's big. And Dave McDonald does make a great point because it is the American League East. The schedule is going to be brutal, very, very brutal for Steven Matz. The question I have for you is his teammate, who people were high on coming into this year as well, Robbie Ray. He threw 5 innings, only gave it 2 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts against the Yankees.
I got a lot of Robbie Ray.
Would you rather have Ray or Matz?
I'd rather have Ray than Matz.
Can you explain why?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Ray, the velo bump is legit. Like, it's about 2 miles per hour from previous years. I think we've seen from Ray, even when he is not, like, as long as you understand who he is and what he's done in the past, he had one really bad year last year where the walk rate was just absolutely atrocious. He's always going to have an elevated walk rate. He's never going to have a great whip, but a guy that if he's healthy, he's going to get you 200 plus strikeouts, and maybe even 250. And that's going to be hugely valuable, I think. And I think with the 2 mile per hour velo uptick, like that could be absolutely massive. So I think the ceiling is very, very high. And I think the floor for both of them is very, very low. And so as long as you built your staff kind of trying to recognize that, like with a lot of my teams, it's like I had my aces, right? So I have like a Bieber and then, another like top, 15 guy. And then I had maybe like Zach Greinke, who, he's been okay so far this year, but a really good whip guy. And then maybe a Sean Manaea, who in the past has been a really good whip guy because he doesn't walk a lot of people. If you built it like that and then you add on a Ray, then you have a little bit of a cushion built in there. Obviously, we'll see what happens, but I really think Ray could be absolutely phenomenal this year.
I don't hate that. Like Ray's stuff, I believe, is much better than Matt's. I've said it on many shows before. I'll never forget sitting behind home plate for the Diamondbacks Giants game and watching Ray pitch. And his stuff was so good, but he had no command, and that's why his walk rate's so high. It was one of those, I'm watching it sitting there going, if he could ever just command his pitches. Like when he was on, his movement was all really, really good, but he's got to figure that out. So maybe the increased velocity and stuff you're talking about will be the trick. We'll see. But I would like to see it from Robbie Ray because the talent's there. But the next guy we want to talk about, Tim Locastro, went 211 leagues as high as 178. We could say it's kind of a Tyler Naquin thing. The playing time's there right now, but it could leave when Ketel Marte comes back and whatnot. Still, Locastro at least was on radars in draft season for a stolen base upside. Got another steal on Tuesday. He has 3 stolen bases so far this year while hitting 268 with a 348 OBP, which is great for a leadoff hitter. It's just the playing time should, on paper, dry up whenever Ketel Marte comes back, but that's a big who knows. So what's your thoughts on maybe Tim Locastro for the next, let's say, couple weeks or so?
Yeah, I think he's a great pickup, hitting leadoff too, right? So he can accumulate some stats. I think, again, this is where the bid amount is so critical, right? We talk about, like, do you bid on a guy or not? Like, if you're throwing down 178 on Locastro, I think you're hoping that he's with you the rest of the year. And that could be the case. I mean, it's not like they have stunning depth, with the D-backs, but with Calhoun back, with Peralta there, with Ketel Marte there and no DH, it's really difficult to see that happening on a consistent basis for him. So it's more like if you were able to get him on a relatively cheap bid, then I think that's great. But if you're spending $178 or 100 plus on him, I just don't know if that's going to be worth it. And really, you need those stolen bases for him to give you something, because he's not going to hit for power. He's not going to get RBI. May get a little bit of runs, and may help you with his batting average a little bit. But you really want him to get those stolen bases. So he's fairly one-dimensional. Though, as I mentioned before, he can accumulate hitting at the top of the order for a little bit.
Yeah, 100% with you there. I liked him going into this year if the playing time was there, but that was not going to be there, obviously. So he's intriguing now. Just another guy, and I scratch my head sometimes wondering, what are we doing here, people? But hey, maybe you'll win the league. So who knows? Get those 4 or 5 steals, and it could be a game changer. You never know. I'm not going to talk too much on this one, but Dom Nunez, if he's still available in your leagues and you need a catcher, please grab him. Like, for crying out loud, he hits home runs at a catcher's position, and he's playing more than Elias Diaz these days. So, yeah, that's that.
The Elias Diaz fan club was short-lived. I was a member of that.
Me too. I was a flag bearer, and I've gone full like NWO in wrestling, and I've ripped my shirt off, and I have Dom Nunez, and I'm walking down the aisle. So it's it's happened.
You can't be loyal in fantasy baseball.
Yeah, outside of baseball.
I should have done that this week. I haven't been one, and I missed out on Tucker Barnhart. I wanted to get Tucker Barnhart, but yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much Elias Diaz and John just Stallings shares are all gone for Barnhart or Nunez everywhere right about now. So that has happened. The guy I want to talk about, though, another lefty. The lefties are ablaze right now. He's a 2-start pitcher this week, so that's one reason why I got picked up quite a bit. And that's Wade Miley, 198 leagues, $121 max. He threw 5 shutout against the Giants on Monday, 5 innings. He's done 11 total innings so far this year, 4 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. And yes, I didn't stutter. That is Wade Miley we are talking about here. So, he actually looked decent. I thought he got pulled early on Monday against the Giants. That was the TJ Antone show, came in there for a bit. I don't know. He looks good, and if they're going to kind of take care of him and not let him go too long and get beat up, he's intriguing. What are your thoughts on Wade Miley?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely interested in Miley. I put in some bids. I may have gotten him in one place, maybe, but I'm actually think I'm lying there. I don't think I ended up getting him anywhere. I mean, early season returns are good. Again, all small sample, things aside, swinging strike rates up at 12.6%, 17.9% K minus walk rate. He's generating a really high O swing, especially for himself. Again, early on. In-zone contact rate is also nice. So these are just kind of the things that I look at and kind of check off. And he was checking them all off heading into Monday. And then I think, he's generating a ton of ground balls, 60% plus at this point in time. He's been a better pitcher since he developed that cutter. I mean, if you look at just his past 4 years, right? He was bad last year in 14 innings. But in the season before that, 3.98 ERA, right? 1.34 WHIP isn't necessarily ideal. But it's something you can live with in today's game. Even before that, 2.57 ERA, 1.21 WHIP in 80 innings with Milwaukee. So he's been serviceable in the past, and so I think it's weeks like this where he's got those two matchups where he can be beneficial. I don't think you should be kind of committed to keeping him on your team for the long haul, but just use him for this week and use him for those nice matchups and hope you kind of get the good end of it before it goes a little bit south and some of the regression naturally happens. But I mean, I think there was a lot worse ads than Wade Miley this week.
All right, that answers my other question: is do you just dump him after this week and get another 2-start guy, or do you hang on? I guess it's all team dependent, obviously, on what you have available. But it feels like he's not a guy to trust every week type thing. So I'm with you there.
Yeah.
The next one, though, is a fun name who has been kind of taking the fantasy world by storm over the last couple of days. Huascar Ynoa, 1 run, 10 Ks against the Marlins on Monday. He threw 5 shutout against the Nationals with 5 Ks back on the 7th. And those are his 2 starts so far this year. He's got a great strikeout rate. The ERA is 0.75. The xFIP's 202. FIP's 223. So he's not like crazy out of line. The overall numbers look good. I know Michael Simeone was pounding the drum on his stuff, and some other guys that no pitching have been pounding the drum. He's the most searched guy on Fangraphs right now. I can tell you that much.
I mean, lock it in then, right?
Are you in? That's the question, because let me get the final stats here. He was added in 193 leagues as high as $145. I think mainly for the two start approach, but are you in maybe a little long term with him?
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting. I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit here because I did not, I don't think I did my formal due diligence on Ynoa in the wire. Just a mistake. But 2 mile per hour velocity increase. He's thrown 97 after 95. Last year. You mentioned the slider has been a really effective pitch for him. So I think I'm generally bought in. I think he can be really good. I mean, 97 miles per hour is elite velocity. And when you're combining that with, with what he's been able to do with the slider, I mean, that's a really nice, combination there. 14.6% swinging strike rate, 30.2% K minus walk rate. Again, just all really good stuff, and he's getting chases outside the zone. I think that'll be very, very key for him, because where he's struggled in the past is with the walks, right? Career 10.1% walk rate. So if he can keep that O swing up there and limit the walks by getting people to chase outside the zone, I think that will be really important for him, because he's falling behind hitters, 51.2% first pitch strike rate. He does not throw the ball in the zone all that often and never really has. And so that O swing, I think, will be a really key indicator for whether he's going to be successful or not moving forward. But certainly has my attention, and he's pitched really well. And I mean, he's got some of the pieces that you need to be effective. I mean, anytime you're throwing 97 and then you also have an effective secondary pitch, and I guess 2 so far this year. It's definitely of interest. But again, we're 2 games into the season, so we got to keep our jets cool, if you will. But for the people who picked him up last week for cheap, or the week before that for cheap, hats off to them, because that's where you can really, that's where it's really a boon, is when you're able to do that.
Yeah, if you did that, you're already winning. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I am intrigued with him. It's still, you got some tougher matchups coming up, like maybe going to Philadelphia. The Nats aren't a joke with, getting Bell and Schwarber back. There's going to be some tough offenses in that East. We talked about that in the season previews. It's not the easiest division to pitch in, but still, he doesn't have to face the Braves. That was one of the tough ones. So that's a good start there. And he'll get his Central matchups and a couple nice West ones. I think he's intriguing. I'd much rather have him than say like Wade Miley. I'll say that much for sure. It's probably not that's not like shocking news.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather have Ynoa than Steven Matz?
That's a tough one. This weekend, it was certainly Matz. I don't know. It's a tough one. I might lean Ynoa just because of the division.
Yeah.
Not that the NL East is easy, but he's in the NL.
Definitely not the AL East.
And the AL East is rough. I mean, what's interesting, one of the things I was just thinking about today is just last year, the Centrals were just such a key place for pitchers. And it's looking exactly the same. I mean, it's not even worse. Like, you look at the offenses in some of these places are just horrendous. You look at Woodruff trying to get a win and Bieber trying to get a win. And, it's been rough, and that's all anecdotal. I've not done the analysis that I'm sure others have, but it's just striking me that's going to be another theme for this year.
Yeah, it'll be something to monitor. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a thing for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what Ynoa keeps doing. It'll be fun to monitor. If not, at worst, I played him for 6K SP2 last night, so that was fun. This one's good. And if Dave McDonald's still in the chat, no, I would never draft Jed Lowrie, Dave. I understand the problems there, but I will add him for FAAB, knowing I can get him for cheap and drop him when I need to. I saw enough going into the weekend that he looks healthy enough. He's going to play right. He's going to hit third for the A's. I love Kana. I have Laureano hitting 1 and 2. So I'm all about this. Lowrie went in 186 leagues, as high as 149. He went 2 for 5 on Tuesday with another home run. He's got 2 homers on the year, 11 runs batted in. He's not going to steal bases. Hate to break it to people, but his OBP is great. He's just playing really well right now. So I'm a fan of enjoy him while he's hot. What about you, Toby?
Yeah, I mean, Lowrie is super serviceable. I mean, if you think about the last time he was on the A's, he was serviceable from a fantasy perspective. He's hitting third in that lineup. It's a very good lineup. It's a very good top of that lineup. I mean, Kana is an OBP stud. Laureano is just Laureanoing it right now, which I'm thoroughly enjoying right now
stolen bases.
With the number of times I have him. I mean, he just looks like a man possessed. So just a really nice spot for him to be in. Like you mentioned, he's really good at OBP. I'm destroying myself because in a 20-team dynasty league, right? So really deep rosters. He was available on the waiver wire that first week. And it was a brutal week, it was just tons of time spent on FAAB. And I had him as my highest guy dollar-wise. But you know how in fan tracks, like you have to put them in order that you want them? I had Yimi Garcia higher up than Lowrie. And so somebody else in my league, Brian Slack of all people, got him for a lower dollar amount. I think I was actually at like 100 and something for him. A lower dollar amount. But because I didn't swap, I mean, it's my own fault because I didn't swap the FAAB, the rankings in my FAAB and have them in the right order and go back and check it. I lost out on him, which is really sad. So anyways, I think he's very serviceable, 15-team league. He's going to get plate appearances. He's going to play every day. He's in a prime spot in the lineup. That's what you're looking for. And he's skilled. He's a skilled hitter when he's healthy.
Yeah, I'd even be willing to throw out 12-team leagues if you need like a middle infielder or something. I think he's very viable right now with all the injuries out there. Like I'm in a 12-team league that I have so many injuries. Like Colton Wong just went down. I have Colton Wong and Tim Anderson both down, and I'm sitting there going, I need a second baseman, a middle infielder. I'm all over the place. Lowrie fits the mold like he does because it's weird with so many IL spots and stuff these days, and like because obviously NFPC doesn't have IL spots, but a lot of other leagues have IL spots. I've had this argument with people before the season started. I think you should have shorter benches. If you want to have more ILs, that is what it is. But you should have shorter benches so you still have good talent on the waiver wire. Like when you start stretching all this out, there's nothing there. At least if you have a deep IL, when you have to take them off, you have to drop a good player still. Like it's just something to think about for the future people. Like if you're in leagues wondering who to pick up, in a 12-team league, you should still have decent options. Like not great, but decent. And I'm in some leagues where you have none, which is it makes it no fun. It really doesn't. Yeah. So something to think about going forward. Last one we're going to talk about here, another closer. We're going to start with closers and end with closers. Might be a weekly thing. Yimi Garcia of the Miami Marlins. Anthony Bass, no good this year. He's going fishing. 183 leagues for Yimi Garcia. 433 max. 1 min. How much would you have spent on Yimi Garcia if you had the choice?
Well, I'll tell you, Bubba. My biggest bid of the year so far was on Yimi Garcia in 2 online championships. 2 OCs. I bid $214 for him in 1, which was a massive bid. But I'm a big Yimi Garcia fan. Even though I had Anthony Bass everywhere, that was much more because I felt like he was the closer. I think Yimi Garcia is a better pitcher. I think he's probably the best pitcher in that bullpen. And so I felt comfortable bidding a lot. I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but I actually already have 2 closers in that league. And my team has started off doing really well. And I just felt like if I could get this 3rd closer and really run up the saves early on in the season, it could give me a lot of flexibility down the stretch. So I went $214 for him there. I think I bid another one was like $194 and I lost out on him in another OC, which is fine. So I was willing to go a decent amount. In a 15-teamer, it would have been less probably, or maybe about the same amount. But he wasn't available in any of my 15-teamers. I just really like the pitcher, Yimi Garcia, and I think the situation is nice. And we've already seen him. You know, he got the win he got a save, and then he got the win the other day, and he pitched really well. Got him out of a jam, and then faced the heart of their lineup in extra innings. It did really well. So. I'm a Yimi Garcia fan. I anticipate he's going to hold on to that gig for an extended period.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know in like DC's best balls and stuff, I was grabbing them late in the difference. Like once Bass got signed with the Marlins, we were grabbing Bass where we could. But late rounds, Yimi was one of those when we talked about it on previous shows. A lot of those second options on teams to grab late. Yimi was definitely one. I'm pretty sure you probably have a fair share somewhere in your DCs. I would assume. But
I have a few, not as many.
Maybe other people are sniping you. You're playing some sharp leagues because I know we talked about it. Like that was one of the handful of guys to kind of target late. So
yeah, in my DCs, I miss out on pitchers that went like picks 300 through like 420 because I was just getting hitters there in every single league. So all of these. Gotcha. Like breakout starting pitchers like Trevor Rogers and stuff like that. I love them, but I only had like a couple shares because I was just trying to really build up the plate appearances with my hitters early there.
Gotcha. All right. So that'll wrap up the FAAB recap, unless there was any other names that really stood out to you that I think there's like, I grabbed some Jose Marmelos and he went deep on Tuesdays. I was happy with that, but like there's guys, I guess, basically team dependent type guys. But I didn't know if there's any game changers. Like, one of these we'll talk about in a listener question, so I'm not too worried about it. Emmanuel Clase was probably 12-team only leagues because he was gone in all 15s. Anything else that stood out to you?
Who closed it down for Cleveland today?
Let me find out for you why I checked that out. Yeah. I have a question for you. Are you a believer in Luke Weaver? Because he looked great in his last start, but I just can't buy into the man.
I'm not. I wasn't really a Luke Weaver believer.
He went 135 leagues as high as $199.
Yeah. The guys that I went after this weekend, Hansel Robles. Both of the Twins closers have struggled a little bit, and Robles has been lights out. 22, at least heading into the weekend, he had a 22.5% swinging strike rate. He was looking vintage Hansel Robles. And by vintage Hansel Robles, I just mean 2019 when he was really good. But, the changeup, the fastball velo is coming back, and he's clearly a trusted part of that bullpen. And so I'm excited about that spec more so than any of the other ones. I also added a lot of Sean Doolittle just because Amir Garrett has struggled. He's got the arm issues. Sims hasn't been that good. He has the arm issues. And so I thought Doolittle might be able to get himself in there. His velo's back to where it was when he was really effective with the Nationals. Unfortunately, today he gave up 2 runs, including the lead for one of the pitchers that I have in quite a few leagues in Luis Castillo. So who said that speculating on closers can't be dangerous? I also speculate on Mike Wendelken, just, because he was a super cheap alternative to Trivino. And then Ginkel as well. That's also been painful. He's given up 3 earned runs so far this week in 1 1/3 innings. So I wish that wasn't happening, but I'm getting a clearer sense of who's closing material or not. What's super fascinating is just how recency bias impacts us. Like, heading into FAAB last night, it was like I had Graveman pretty high up there, and then Montero comes in and closes the game out, and then I drop him in my FAAB bids, even though I don't really believe in Montero. And then what happens? Save. He blows the blown save, and now Graveman is like looking like the holy grail, Yep. And so it's just one of those things where things can just change so quickly. Like Wade Davis 2 weeks ago gets that save right before FAAB, and now he hasn't sniffed it since, and he's looked atrocious. So, it's just, this is the way it rolls, and you just got to go with the flow. Oh, and Bednar, I put some bids in on Bednar. He also looked bad. He looked bad today.
They made sense. I'll say that much. And you didn't break the bank for me either. It's like, okay, I spent a couple bucks, I can drop him and not even worry about it type things. So that's fine. And Bednar, like he had a pretty decent spring, if I remember correctly. Looked good early. He's had a little hiccup now, but no one in Pittsburgh's really ran away with that thing yet. So it's going to be someone eventually. Why not, right? We've talked about time and time again. Like Wendelken could be that guy that's like a mini. He's not Knebel because he's not going to get saves, but could get you the ratios, the strikeouts, the wins, maybe luck into like 4 or 5 saves. Like you wouldn't be shocked in the end. Like it's very possible.
Wendelken's been a better pitcher than Trivino throughout his career. Like he's been better on most accounts, I think. It's just one of those things where you're doing this and you're just trying to figure it out. It's like, like yesterday, Yohan Lopez for the D-backs looked like a great pickup. And then today he gives up two earned runs and loses the game for them in the ninth inning, I think, And so it's just like, this is what it's like. This is what speculating on closers is like. And you just hope that you get that one that you hit and settles in, and you get it early enough where you can really benefit from it. That's what I'm really hoping happens. I'm feeling okay about the Robles one. If not good, I just feel like the world is kind of coming together, like the world wants the Hansel gifts back.
Wants the Hansel, yes.
And it's doing anything in its power to get that. So
we're getting laser eagle eyes. We need some Hansel gifts back. We need them both.
Eddie.
We got one box burger. Like we already got one box burger. So.
We got one box burger.
Yeah.
One box burger is that was fantastic.
That was surprising.
I had no idea.
I saw you tweet it out. I had to like look back like what? Where?
Totally.
What?
Brian Slack texted me and was like said something about it, and he's like, oh my God. And I was like, what is he talking about? And then I go back and I'm like, oh my God, Brad Boxberger got a save. This is so 2018.
So good.
But I mean,
Corinne check got the save, by the way.
Who got it?
Corinne
check did. Yeah. Corinne check.
Clean it. 1 innings, clean, no hits, no walks, 1 strikeout.
I mean, the thing is, even Clase's last 2 have not looked great, And one of the reasons I doubted him was because of the swinging strike rate, and like he hasn't been able to strike guys out in the past. He's looked really good, and that hasn't been a concern so far this year. So could just be nothing, but we'll see. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be super interesting. Let's just hope Hansel Robles becomes the closer. And the thing is, too, I think that's very interesting this year is the speculation is so hard on closers that like every potential closer is already on teams. Like weeks before they even enter into the contest. So like even on my guys, like I ended up spending a pretty penny. Like I think I got Doolittle, Robles, and Bednar maybe on one team, or somebody else, or maybe it was Ginkel on one team. And I paid I think my bids were like $14 each. So I paid 42 for all three of them. And it already looks like two of them are really bad bids, but one of them, all I need is one to hopefully hit. So it's been interesting for sure.
And no doubt about that. All right, let's hit some listener questions up here. We got some doozies as always. And we'll start with our boy, D-Mendio2, David Mendelson from the Triple Play Fantasy. What are Toby Pancakes and Cakey Smalls' thoughts on Jose De Leon? Back-to-back 9K games with great spin rates on his pitches, but also has allowed 4 home runs in 2 starts. So Jose De Leon, he's a guy that I liked going into the season as a kind of a longer relief, Peralta light potential type guy. But it's been good and bad, like he said. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very appetizing and tempting for him, but I think the major problem, I dropped him where I had him last week. And, I think the challenge is he doesn't have a rotation spot, so he's now out of the rotation because Sonny Gray is coming back, and Hoffman may even be out too because they have Miley and then they have Lorenzen as well. So I'm just not sure he's going to make it there. He could be really intriguing in the bullpen. The challenge with him is the home run issues are not new. I mean, his career, it's small sample stuff, but his career home runs per 9 is like 2.56. He's got poor control. He walks a lot of guys. So he's just very, very volatile and also kind of hittable, which is not a good combo. If that fastball velocity was a few ticks higher, I mean, we'd be talking about really, really interesting guy, but he's not quite there yet. So I think it's fine to move on from him. He's going to have those great starts and he's going to have absolute implosions. And we've already seen that so far this year. And those 2 starts he had were like the 2 best starts he'll probably have all year, given the matchups that he had.
You hit on something though that I like about him. That's what I liked going into the year. I didn't think he'd be in the rotation to begin with. I like him to be that 2 to 3 inning kind of long man, like Peralta. That's what I like him for. I think that could be kind of effective if you want to go that route, kind of like a Kopech that we're seeing right now. Go give me 2, maybe 3 innings, see where it goes, get your strikeouts, see the lineup one time, stuff like that. Because even with his 7.7 ERA, his Sierra is 2.81, his XFIP's 2.96. It's interesting. I won't say it's great, but it's interesting. He has given up a ton of barrels and a ton of hard hits. The home run to fly ball is almost 37%. So yeah, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad when you look at Jose De Leon. That's like, okay, so can we get him for like 2 innings and maybe get like 4 strikeouts and see what happens, and maybe sneak in a win here and there, or are we just going to be in trouble? That's what I'm intrigued by with him. So I'd keep an eye on him. I wouldn't say go roster him everywhere, but he's definitely a guy if the situation starts to fit like the way they use TJ Antone and stuff. If he could slide into that role type situation, I'd be much more intrigued with Jose De Leon. I didn't want him to start, period. I didn't think he was ready to start this year, so we'll see. All right. JB at Beat Rick and Frank says, does John Gray have any value? Hold and hope he gets traded. So do you hold and hope he gets traded? So do you like John Gray at all? That's his question.
No, not really. I don't even think he's that good outside of Coors. Coors hasn't necessarily been his issue throughout his career. I think at least heading into last year, he actually had a better
at Coors. Yeah,
he was better at Coors than he was on the road. I just don't think he's a very good pitcher at all. He doesn't really have the strikeout stuff. He gets very hittable. I just think I don't see a lot of upside with Gray, so I'm not really interested. No.
Yeah,
he gets traded to like the Dodgers, sure, but
if it's the right situation, everyone's got a price. But his other question is Zach McKinstry legit? My concern with him is playing time. Like, sure, it's been cool. He hasn't proven it that long. Playing time, so no. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was listening to the Prospect podcast with Clay Link and James Anderson, and one of the things is like with prospects, I mean, you're better off asking, I think, those guys, and it sounds like McKinstry is a guy who's always been able to hit. I don't think he does have 2 home runs so far this year, but I don't think they anticipate him having much power. His projection is for like 5 or 6 home runs in 250 plate appearances. So even if he got 500, you're looking at 12 home runs. Doesn't really have a lot of speed. And the batting average projection isn't that high, but I do think that he has a history of hitting pretty well in the minors. And so I think he's more like kind of hit tool over power or speed. And if that's the case, it's just really hard to do anything with that. He's also util only right now. Obviously, he'll get, I think, outfield eligibility soon. Maybe while he's getting plate appearances, because he's with the Dodgers and like pretty much everybody in that lineup has some value, but it's really hard to know when he's going to be in the lineup and when you could take advantage of him. So I wasn't super interested. I didn't put any bets on him.
No, he hasn't played in a couple of days. Mookie Betts came back on Tuesday and went deep. Playing time is going to be a very, very tough situation. He'll probably start once or twice a week. It's the Dodgers. That's what they do, rest people. But when Belly comes back, it'll make it even tougher. So it's not worth it, in my opinion. His last question, any closer speculations that you're looking at? Like, we've talked about this a few times. Most of them are rostered, like you said. Like Jose Cisneros, a guy for Detroit. I think you can keep taking looks at if you want.
Yeah, he struggled, though, yesterday, and Soto came in and shut the door on the Astros. I think Robles right now is kind of like my prime guy. Graveman, who we talked a little bit about. I've been down on Graveman forever, but it actually looks, at least based on early skills, and it's so hard to know whether it's legit or not at this point. But he's got a velo uptick, and the slider's been really effective. I think it is so far this year, and that's what he's missed in the past, is he actually hasn't really had either effective fastballs or effective secondaries. So he's definitely interesting just because I think Montero's not very good. So those are the two guys I think right now that I'd be most interested in. And I think the KC bullpen is still interesting. I mean, Holland got the save today, but I'd be interested in having, now that Hahn is injured and Wade Davis isn't pitching well, him and Barlow. I think Barlow could be a really nice little closer spec there to pick up some saves. So yeah, it all depends. Those are 3 guys that kind of stick out to me a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say Scott Barlow a second ago. That's a guy I'm looking at. The last guy that I want to mention, depends on the size of your league, but if it's super, super deep, Tyler Rogers has actually been decent out of the Giants bullpen. So he's a guy that if some reason things get weird with McGee. Also, so far what's happened, it hasn't been Rogers, but I think the lefty-righty thing can play into it at times. When McGee's gotten breaks because of like just regular rest, Wandy Peralta's gotten the late innings. He's got a save already and a win. So if you're speculating on stuff like that, you could go there, but it's the Giants. I would get too carried away.
Hey, your Giants are dope.
Yeah, there's something. The next question, Dan the Goat asks, any concerns with young studs off the slow starts, Lourdes Gurriel and Yohan Moncada aren't inspiring my infield with a lot of confidence right now? I'd say don't panic just yet, guys. Like, it's still a little early for me with these 2 guys, but that's the easiest way I can say it to you.
Yeah, I agree. Give them time. I mean, obviously, like, take a look. Oops, wrong Gurriel. I mean, you always want to take a look and see what you think is happening kind of underneath the hood for them. But the best thing to check right now is like a guy's BABIP. It sounds really ridiculous just to check their BABIP, but like Gurriel's BABIP so far this year is 238. Career it's 326. Yeah. So that's a ton of points of batting average he's missing out on right now. He's not hitting the ball hard yet, but again, like, if he were to go 4 for 4 tomorrow with 2 barrels, all of a sudden he's looking,
changes everything.
A lot better. The contact rate's down a little bit. You also want to remember, like, some of these teams have played good pitching repeatedly, to start off the season. So I think it could be a lot of different things. I would definitely be patient. I mean, even if you look at Lourdes Gurriel, like his expected BA is 257 from 172. If he was hitting 257, he'd probably have a couple more runs, a couple more RBI, and we wouldn't be as concerned about him. Moncada, I don't have him a lot of places, so I haven't been looking super closely. The strikeout rate is elevated, but he's still walking. BABIP is lower than it usually is. Good O swing. Contact rate is right where you want it to be. Hard hit rate is actually, up a little bit. And again, it's up league wide, so we have to be cognizant of that. Not hitting the ball all that great, but there's nothing that really concerns me there. Not that there's anything within 40 plate appearances that would really concern me, but I think that whole White Sox team is going to be really fascinating because I think they're very mediocre. With the injuries that they've had and with the way they've been managing and just the guys they've had in the lineups, what their lineups have looked like Tony La Russa is going to manage that team into mediocrity, and they're going to be like a 500 team all season long because they're actually not that good when they lost those depth pieces. Like, especially there's so much swing and miss in that lineup. Anyways, that's a tangent.
Yeah, no, that was the big reason with the White Sox that was troubling for them is no depth at all, like zero depth. And Tony La Russa isn't a moron, but that's a whole nother way to say it. But yeah, Lourdes, I think one thing with Lourdes that's been tough is he missed some times because of the close contacts, I think, slash reaction to the vaccine. Yeah. So that could obviously have hampered his production for a couple of days as well. So I'm not worried about that kind of stuff, especially playing in Dunedin in that lineup against some of those pitchers they'll see. I think he's going to be just fine. Drew at Fru_Dorte asks, thoughts on Aaron Hicks? Would you move on in a 12 with guys like Locastro and Calhoun available? Well, Hicks went 3 for 4 tonight, so this is why you don't get too excited right out the gate. Just going to throw that one out there. He's always an injury risk. It's what Aaron Hicks does. Like, I get it. I would consider Cole Calhoun because I think he's actually very interesting, but I'd hang on to Hicks in the middle of that hitting third with the Yankees. I'm there for now.
Yeah, Hicks, 158 BABIP, Yeah. It's so fitting when things like that happen early on in the season, though, because we got a question about John Means. And granted, it was for a 10-teamer, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a very different story. But, it was like, do I drop John Means now? Because after the first inning, he had given up 3 runs, And then what does he do? He throws 4 shutout innings, 5 Ks in 5 innings pitched, 7 hits and walks, 3 earned runs. So not a great outing, especially against, the Mariners, but a fine outing. His ERA for the season is like 2.5 with a 1 WHIP, and more than a K per 9. Like, he's been fantastic so far this year, and people are want to move away from him after 1 inning, So that's just an example where like a few innings can literally change like the way a player looks right now with how they're doing. So be patient, wait these things out, let that regression positive happen.
Just be patient. Patience. Aaron R at A Greike says, at what point would you start stashing Wander Franco in 10 to 12 team standard leagues? I think the general consensus is that he's still a ways off, but I could see it happening soon. I wouldn't stash him at all. That's just me because I don't know where he's going to play. I don't know where he's coming up, but I don't stash prospects very often. So it's a bad question for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, the thing is, I think he's going to minor league camp, and that doesn't start until May. Yep. So you're still waiting a while, and obviously he'll probably be really good when he comes up. But like Bubba mentioned, I'm not sure exactly where he plays. It also depends on how deep your bench is, right? If you have a great team and you have an empty bench spot, sure, why not go with him? I did FAAB Logan Gilbert a bunch in some 15-teamers. Hoping that
but there's like a clear path for him. Like they've already said he's coming up the pitch. Like we know that one's happening, but it's like he's gonna have a spot.
Yeah.
When Kalinick comes up, he's gonna have a spot. Like they're not gonna call him up about it. With Wander Franco, like does Adames go? Does Brandon Lau go? Does Wendell go? Like Yandy? There's so many pieces there. Like where does he go? And does he play every day? Like, a lot of questions with Franco. That the talent's great, but man.
He seems more like a late season call up to help bump down the postseason run, Get him everyday plate appearances down in the minors. And
like if you asked us this question in August, I'd say, okay, go ahead and grab him for the September push. Knock yourself out. But I'd still be concerned about playing time at that point as long as everyone's healthy. So
yeah. And also in like a standard 10 to 12 team league, like I don't know how much better than replacement level he's going to be, during his first run out there. So you'll get more value just out of working the good matchups and stuff like that, I think.
And the other train of thought is if it's a FAAB league, someone's going to pay a lot of money for him. So you could take that money and do something else to benefit your team for the now. So think about that also. Little Book of Calm asks, when Springer comes back, which reports today look like April 27th at the earliest, he keeps getting pushed back. I'll need to cut an outfielder off the end of my bench. It's a weird league, 12 teams, OBP, power is emphasized, home run, total bases slugging. And my bottom 5 outfielders are Hilliard, Polanco, JBJ, Austin Slater, Avi Garcia. Who do you like the most, least of that group? Sadly, I would drop Hilliard or Slater.
Yeah, I think I'd probably drop Hilliard. Was it an OBP league or no?
You said yes, OBP.
OBP. I'd drop Hilliard.
Yeah, he's just not playing enough, and that kills me.
Yeah, and Slater, that's the thing. Both Hilliard and Slater are not playing, but I think Slater is a better, like, he plays really well when he plays, and he's got a really good OBP, and he steals bases. Not that Hilliard won't, but I just think that that's a better look. And you don't really know when Hilliard's going to play because it's not like he's a traditional platoon. Like, he's not hitting against righties. So that's what I would say. And then of that group, the guy that I like the most, I would probably say Avi.
Yep, Avi for sure. But then again, like I said,
in OBP, he also gets
JBJ is actually pretty decent in OBP. He's very good in OBP, actually.
I have him in it. Has he been playing every day, JBJ?
Well, it's been like a road. JBJ and Avi, for the most part, have. Locastro kind of sprinkles in from time to time, it feels like, especially with Yelich has been out lately, so it's been tough to tell. Those 3 have been playing every day. We really haven't had a great stretch of games where all 4 of them are healthy. So we haven't really figured that out yet.
JBJ. Ooh.
Yeah, overall is not great right now, but we could say the same thing for Avi and Locastro about 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah, for sure.
It goes back to the whole small sample thing. But I will say, little Book of Calm, you have a few more weeks before you have to think about this, so a lot can change. Keep that in mind. The last question we have for tonight, this could be Toby's opus because this is right in his wheelhouse. Joseph Morrow asks, when do you start category analysis? Drafted a staff with some lower strikeout guys. Fell into 3 closers, Reyes, Rodriguez, and Barnes. Already at bottom of strikeouts since I have started the 3 closers. He's starting them instead of starters, so he's low on Ks. Can't imagine these closers lasting too long. What is the play?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where it's helpful to understand, the context of your team. One of the reasons why it's nice to have projections heading in is because you kind of get a sense of where your strengths and weaknesses might be already heading in. So I would say if I had 3 closers in a league, which would be really, really, really nice. I have 1 league, I think, out of all of my leagues, including 12 teamers, where that's the case. I would definitely have those guys in the lineup every single day, every single week. So I would do that. I think you need to match up. You need to maximize and try to get those 2 starters in there, right, to try to make up on some innings as well. But one of the things that I think you should do is, as you build up those saves, think about when you want to transition from 6 starters, 3 relievers to 7 starters and 2 relievers. So let's say they stay the closers for the rest of the season. You want to kind of monitor that. And what you can do always is bank those saves early. And then when you feel pretty good about where you are, set yourself that target, right? So if you're in a main event league, the target last year was 73 saves. I imagine this year it'll be closer to 60 to 65 saves for 80th percentile. And so once you kind of get in that range, right, if you just do starting pitchers, which is going to be really hard, right? Because it's hard to get 9 starting pitchers that are quality enough. But let's say you go to 8-1 or 7-2, or, throughout the year, you can just use, if you have better starting pitcher matchups that allow you to get to 7, then maybe think about which one of those guys only has 5, or if it's Rodriguez, recognizing the Pirates are probably going to get 1 save opportunity every month. Because I don't think they've had 1 save opportunity, I think, the whole since the season started. So just thinking about things like that to play the starters in the right matchup. So I think you just need to be cognizant of that. And then at a certain point, depending on where you are in saves, is kind of make that transition and decide who those 2 closers you're going to have in the lineup every day is, and then just kind of map it out from that point in time. I think that's one of the challenges of having a ton of leagues that I'm realizing this year is I'd love to do that type of level of analysis, but I'm just trying to scrap it,
hang on,
keep it all together. Yeah, literally, I'm just I don't know. I don't even know which players are on which teams at this point in time. I'm just
I almost tweeted at you and some other guys on Saturday. I sat down and I did like my 5 FAAB and FBC leagues. Took a couple hours. I walked away. I did all my other leagues the next day. I'm like, I'm done. I can't keep doing this. I don't know how you do it. It was 10:30. I'm like, I'm going to bed. I'm not doing this anymore. I almost texted you going, I bet you're awake still doing this right now.
Oh, dude. You're this week it was 2 or 2:30 that I ended up finishing it up. It is a slog.
Yeah, I can't.
For sure. This is what I do. I just throw on my headphones. I just throw on some good music, and I'm focused. I've got little kids all the time. And so when I can just
focus,
tunnel vision into that computer and just look at those players, I mean, there's a little bit of peace in there. There's a little bit of peace.
It's your zen spot.
There's a little bit of zen in there, yeah. But
for Joseph though, if I give 2 cents on this, and I know I've said it earlier in the show, and I say it a lot, and people probably think I'm crazy, but I've done it in years past. Certain weeks, if there's just pitchers that aren't there for you, if you can do it right now and you have the flexibility on your roster, go grab a Kopech. Keep an eye on a De Leon. Those guys like a TJ Anton type that's going to go 2-3 innings that are high strikeout guys, because you can just accumulate those while you're waiting for your 2-star pitchers instead of taking kind of mediocre 2-star pitchers. Go grab some of these guys. Watch what teams start using openers. Those will be big as well, because that'll come up. You get them for a couple times a week. Like little things like that. Like Toby said, ideally you find your top starters. You rotate the 6 to 3s, the 7 to 2s, 8 to 1s. That's the idea. Like rotate that going back and forth. But you're not always going to have 6 pitchers you even want to start. It's just not going to happen. So find some different guys you can rotate in and out that might help you rack up strikeouts. Go see who's got good K to walks right now, stuff like that as the season develops, and kind of go that route. Instead of waiting for the right 2 starts, because that's tough. And while you're doing that, a lot of people are going to be trying to pick those guys up as well. So it's not always a lock that you're just going to get these guys every week to stream. It's not always going to happen. So keep that in mind. All right, Toby, that'll wrap us up this week. Final thoughts to about 10 to 12 games in the books, depending on where you are. We're through week 2, as they say. So thoughts?
Yeah, keep grinding. I love May. I love it when May rolls around and we got a little bit of something to look at, like got a good little sample to take a peek at and look for guys. But just keep plugging away. It's been a tough year so far, for sure, on a lot of fronts. Closers, wins, pitching wise, it's been really tough. It's only going to get tougher too as the weather warms up. And
it's going to get a little dicier as things warm up and hitters get comfortable and things start to change. It's going to get fun. Want to see how it keeps changing. Want to see how these new humidors affect different things. As some ballparks that are super humid have humidors now to help make the ball fly less. It's going to be weird. All kinds of goofy stuff. So keep an eye on that and check in with us weekly. We'll give you our 2 cents on everything. Keep the listener questions coming. That helps drive some fun conversations on the show as well. But until next week, check out Toby on Twitter at BatFlipCrazy. I'm at BDentric. This was Bubba and the Bat Flip, episode 79. Catch you guys next week.